Well, hi YouTubers, hi and Happy New Year. I'm back with my 6 books, see new calendars. It's January 2020, which, God, sounds so sci-fi, doesn't it? Anyway, New Year, I'm trying to do the 60 books, then I'm going to do another book project. So, I thought I'd go back to a classic, practically perfect in every way. Dame Julie Andrews. This is Homework, a memoir of my Hollywood years. Unlike her previous book, which was her childhood years, this is the Julie Andrews Goes to Hollywood. Julie Andrews wins Oscars. Julie Andrews becomes practically perfect in every way. Now, I've mentioned this before on my other reviews that yes, I'm a fangirl for Julie Andrews. I have been since little. I've met her. She's absolutely lovely. And it's interesting because now compared to the previous book, which was her childhood years, it was her growing up. It was her understanding that she has this gift of this wonderful voice. This book I found a bit more cynical. Her worldview has expanded. And in it, I found it also quite cynical as well. And I'm going to try to explore that because this is a lot to kind of go into in a book like this. What do you say? What don't you say? Now, the first book, Julie Andrews was unfeignedly polite. You read the book and you had Julie Andrews' voice running through your head. You can imagine her with tea and scones and cottage cream with jam and little pinkies raised. I mentioned that before. With this, you can imagine that, but there's a bit of an edge to this, which I'm going to go into and read the blurb. Okay, I won't read all of it. Homework is the second installment of Julie Andrews' memoirs, beginning with her arrival in Hollywood to make a screen debut in Walt Disney's Mary Poppins, followed closely by The Sound of Music. The result is an astonishing rise to fame as those now classic films brought Julie almost overnight success. It was the beginning of a career that would make her an icon to millions the world over. Right, and there's a lot more to that. And it mentions S.O.B. and Victor Victoria and Ten and Blake Edwards, okay? So, because obviously this is also the book where is about the failure of a marriage. And I will give this to Julie regarding Tony, her ex-husband. They had a very, very civil divorce. Basically, no one really did anything wrong, per se. She's very diplomatic about her divorce. She doesn't start pointing fingers. She doesn't say he said, she said. She deals with that in a very diplomatic style. I think more out of respect to Tony as well, because he's the father of her daughter, Emma Walton, and so I will give her that. Let me just go into this. Is page 50. A lot of it is previous, okay. Now the thing is, I did find quite interesting is the stuff about the sound of Mary Poppins is so brief. It mentions the people she worked with, but it mentioned Dick Van Dyke and his accent, of course. But obviously, the story of the story of Mary Poppins could have been a book all by itself. Okay, so I was a bit surprised by that. I thought I'd go into more detail. Now I did learn this as well. The reason why Julie Andrews has always had quite cropped hair. Now I just thought she just looked amazing. I mean, look at that. I mean, Julie Andrews looks amazing with cropped hair. No, the reason is wigs. She's worn so many wigs in her career. Okay, because obviously Mary Poppins, that was her first proper wig role, and it was so hot she had to have her hair cropped short and shorter. So that's why. That's why she has the kind of feathery look to her, the kind of elfin look. I just generally thought it because it suited her, and it does. Okay. Right. This bit here. This bit just made me smile. This is page 50. This is when she's talking about now the sound of music. Okay. My favourite things coincides with the arrival of Captain Von Trapp, played by Christopher Plummer. I passed across only once or twice during my time on Broadway, but I knew Chris to be an esteemed classical actor, who I found intimidating. My background was in vaudeville, the complete opposite of legit theatre, which Chris has done so much of though. How can I match up? He initially struck me as a surprising dark choice for the captain, and I heard he had almost hadn't accepted the role. On that first day of filming, I realised he'd been brilliantly cast. He just was Captain Von Trapp. Now, one thing is this. One thing that you actually see at this point is Julie Andrews is insecure. Julie Andrews is, to us, she's perfect, but she's also insecure. Now, on Mary Poppins, that was her first ever film. She'd done the West End and Broadway, but she was a more comic actress, if you will. She'd never done the serious legit stuff. So in the end, it was like for her to be kind of thrown at the deep end. I like the fact that she was insecure meeting Christopher Plummer. And also, I love Christopher Plummer. So, anyway. Yeah. And this bit here, this makes me smile. I love stories about stuff on sets. And this bit, okay. And I knew this story, but it's nice seeing it from Julie's point of view. Kim Carafe was only 7 years old, and she was being very brave. I was supposed to go over the front of the boat to land right beside her. The first take went perfectly, but Bob felt I needed another shot. Unfortunately, in the second take, the boat rocked so violently that I went over the back as Kim went over the front. I'd never swum so fast in my life. I could see the poor child failing away and going under the lander at least twice. Crew members dove into the water to help save her. Mercy we got her up there in time. Little Kim threw up all the water she had swallowed, and we bundled her in the blankets and made a big fuss over her. Yes, because I knew this, because that is the take they use in the film. Little Gretel almost drowns. I know it is a slick thing, obviously, there were people to save her. I was like, wow, you kind of almost killed Little Gretel at the Sound of Music, which sounds really, really dark. But I knew this, but it's just nice kind of from I think, Maria, Gianna's point of view. Okay, because Gianna's literally had to sort that out. And I just thought that was a nice story, kind of expanded on that. Because it's kind of, Julie Andrews knows the stories that really audience want to know. That's what she tells them. Why did she... But at the same time, it's a little bit interesting because when... Now, one thing is this, is she'd done 3 films back to back. She did did Mary Poppins, Thoroughly Modern Millie, and then The Sound of Music. Okay? She'd done 3 films back to back, but none had been released up to this point, so she had no idea. She was finishing The Sound of Music, and whilst Mary Poppins hadn't even opened yet, it's easy to kind of take into account her overnight success, if you will, but none of this was overnight. This was a work in progress. This was being a child standing on a box in front of a microphone. This was being one of the youngest children ever to appear at the Royal Variety performance and meeting the Queen. This actually was a slow trawl, but for us, the audience, it looks overnight. You know, where did someone come from? No, she didn't have the overnight success. She had the long haul, but we don't see the long haul normally. Okay? A few bits though always surprised me as well. Okay, now this is when she wins the Oscar for Mary Poppins. Okay. At the end of the ceremony, all the winners and presenters were asked to pose of photographs. I stood next to Audrey, who looked absolutely gorgeous. She quietly said to me, "Julie, you really should have done My Fair Lady, but didn't have the guts to turn it down." I told her I completely understood, and in the years that followed, we became good friends. She mentioned that in the first book. She's actually repeating herself at this bit. Okay? She also, for that, Anne Bancroft should have won the Academy Award instead. Okay? But this is the moment of her Oscar speech. This is it. I sat beside Tony in the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. Sidney Poitier was presenting the Best Actress Award, and I was stunned when he called my name. I went up to the stage and stammered into the microphone. "I know you Americans are famous for your hospitality, but this is really ridiculous." I was escorted backstage to the press room, where a crowd of journalists and photographers were gathered, and it was quite a while before I could return to my seat. Okay, I just found that a little bit, because obviously this is the Oscars. This is a woman's first Oscars, and she's won her first Oscar at her first nomination, which is actually quite unusual. I just found that a little bit underwhelming in places. I thought it'd be a bit more glamour glitz, but this is not about the glamour glitz of Hollywood. In fact, in a way, it's like the alternative of Hollywood. Okay. Now, one thing is obviously Julie Andrews was thrown into the deep end. There's this bit here. This is page 66. I'll go back and forth in the book. Okay. When it talks about her 3 films, okay, at this point I had made 3 films, yet not one had been released. I had no idea how successful they might be or what lay in store, but I did know what a gift I had been given. The privilege of having played these 3 roles would have been enough to satisfy me for a lifetime. Obviously, hey, okay. However, one thing, now this is quite unusual for a book like this, is Julie Andrews, she's built her entire career on being practically perfect in every way. It's what we the audience expect of her. She can't do no wrong to us. She never has. We've kind of grown up with this ideal of Julie Andrews. And for those of us who've met her, as I've been lucky to do, she is the ideal. However, she has obviously also battled quite severe mental health issues, which I thought was incredible to read and so refreshing, even though, because, actually I'm going to read a bit here. She makes an appointment with a psychoanalyst called Dr. Ralph Greenson. Okay, here you go. I began to understand the stress of trying to keep my family together all those years, supporting them at such a young age, my mother's depression, my stepfather's alcoholism, driving a hold onto the house that meant so much to us, combined with the pressures of the war and torn all over England year after year, followed by a steep learning curve and rigorous demands of Broadway, a marriage and a child, and now Hollywood. All this had generated powerful emotions inside me, which I buried in order to survive. Indeed, I barely knew what I was feeling at all. I didn't recognise how fortunate I was to have an extraordinary, given the gift of my voice, and because of that, so many extraordinary opportunities. But now, having arrived at what seemed to be the safe haven in my professional life, my marriage was in trouble. It's interesting because Julie Andrews was born with this incredible voice. She had people who nurtured her and trained her, and she was made into a child prodigy, and no one ever asked her what she wanted. That was the thing. No one had ever asked Julie Andrews the question, what do you want? And that's quite troubling. I mean, we're blessed as an audience to have her, but she was never really given a choice in this. She had a talent and she was kind of forced to nurture it, and she's very good at what she does. So that's when she talks about her writing career, and her writing career is, I think, makes her more happy at times in Hollywood. When she describes the love of turning a story, writing it down, the illustration, seeing it published, I felt the more love for that than I did for her acting career at times. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry. Now, however, there's a fun things about this book I don't like. Okay. Now, can you just excuse me for 1 second? And I'm really rubbish at editing, so but I've been talking now for like 10 minutes, so I need to have a okay. Is okay. Hope you forgive me for that. Okay. Is as her worldview is expanding and she meets Blake Edwards, her second husband, and her family expands too. She talks about her brother Chris. Now I thought this was interesting because Chris really got a focus. Who is her brother? Chris really got a focus in the first book. Okay, I mean it was a surprise for a lot of us readers to know that she even had siblings. They're not in the public eye, any of them. They're not as well known as her. And there's this bit here, and I just found this quite difficult to read because I'll just read this bit here, okay? This is when her brother, Chris, comes out to Hollywood, okay? Soon after that, Chris was admitted to hospital. He had been high on drugs and attempted to fly from a window, landed on a car below. Miraculously, nothing was broken, but he was pretty banged up. Since he had moved out of the house, things had got progressively worse. I received a string of unexpected bills, new cameras and lenses that he had charged to me, later sold for drugs. He's busted for possession twice, and I bailed him out on both at times. Okay? He often called late at night, needing money and threatening to come over to the house. I would not take no for an answer. In the interest of tough love, I decided not to visit him in hospital, though I did cover his medical expenses. Now, obviously, a sibling you love battling a drug addiction is basically is kind of using you as well to kind of supplement his income is quite difficult to read as well. I mean, I respect the fact that Julie Andrews was very kind of honest about talking about drug addiction because it can happen to anyone, and in the Hollywood sphere it is so common it's unbelievable. But at the same time, I just felt a little bit surprised that she was even telling us this story. Julie Andrews' life is so vivid, and she's had so many adventures and worked in so many films. Why is she kind of stopping the narrative, if you will? We talk about her brother, who we don't even know, if you understand. And at the same time, I always find it quite difficult when you read books about people in the public eye and then about their siblings, because I understand why we're reading about this, even though in a way it is interesting to read, but at the same time it feels kind of cruel at the same time. And I thought I'd ever say that about June Andrews, but that's how it felt reading this. Now, I'm pleased to hear that Chris has recovered and he's moved on with his life. And Chris, as someone, I used to work in the psychiatric unit, so I knew people who drug addictions had kind of ruined their lives. I think well done for you to getting their lives on track. But at the same time, it felt so unnecessary. felt really unnecessary. Okay? Right. However, she also talks about her life expanding, and that's when she adopts a new family. And I just thought, this she adopts a child called Amelia, okay, and this bit here. Now I like this bit because this bit here. This is when Amelia comes into her life, and Emma's a little bit older. Emma, her daughter. Emma was increasingly taken with Amelia, and I recognise the generosity of heart it must have taken for her to embrace so many big changes in our lives. I found myself surrendering to the joy and happiness of being focused almost exclusively on my children. I've lived in Switzerland at long last with no departure date in sight. Okay? Blake, on the other hand, was not happy with the new arrangements. Experiencing physical discomfort post-surgery and travelling back and forth between the Style in London wasn't as easy as we'd hoped. The cost of business calls whenever he was home, and he was often tired and grumpy. I prayed things would settle down soon, and he would eventually come to feel the same way I did about living there. Okay? So, yeah, so she adopted an orphan. That's a lovely little tender subject, but you kind of see this kind of how torn she is between the love of her second husband Blake, okay, because she lost not lost, she divorced her first husband Tony. Then she married Blake, and then obviously she has to kind of reconcile being an actress in the public eye, the wife, the mother, and there's so much give and take, and you can see how torn she is a lot of the times. However, she talks about her love of Blake and her family. That's absolutely touching. But at the same time, I would not. This sounds quite, I guess, selfish from a Julie Andrews fan, but I would like more focus on her later films as well. Now, now I've got to talk about SOB, okay? Now, for those who haven't seen SOB, or Kiss mainly see SOB, I was quite young when I saw it. It shocked me when I saw it, and everyone knows the reason why. That's like, okay, the thing you never imagined Mary Poppins ever doing, she just did that. I was literally physically stunned. It involves a red dress, and that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. Right. Since the scene is an erotic nightmare of sorts, Theodora, I designed a red chiffon gown with multiple layers of fabric to swirl around me as I moved past with wind machines and mirrors. The bust was made to break away at the appropriate moments, revealing, as Theodora called my Bella Pointrin. During the first fitting at Western Costumes, Blake came to see how the effect would work. I was only mortified in that a number of seamstresses and assistants were in attendance. Okay? So, yeah, and I'm not going to continue that scene. Everyone knows that scene. At the same time, though, because obviously, the transition of child actress to adult actress, she was typecast. She was the original choice for Mrs. Brown, Eglantine Brown in, no it's not, Mrs. Price, that's it. Mrs. Price in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. She was first, and then she said no. And then she changed her mind. And Cordman said they'd already cast Angela Lansbury, it was too late. And I liked Angela Lansbury in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. And yeah, so. And that's why Angela Lansbury has a kind of like little cameo in Mary Poppins Returns, which I didn't like to. I get that at the end. So, because Bedknobs and Broomsticks is like a spiritual successor in a way to Mary Poppins. Sorry. So, when it came to our later films, they didn't really get much even a mention, and in a way it disappointed me, okay? Because it mentions Victor Victoria, okay? And this is Victor Victoria. In truth, there was hardly a day on Victor Victoria when I wasn't full of doubt about my performance. But there was one day when I got a terrific ego boost. A group of guys, Garner, Preston, and some of the cameramen were standing together chatting casually. I was as Victor in a tuxedo, and I sorted over to join them. Normally, in a situation such as that, they would have made some accommodation for my presence. Physical shift. An arm placed around the shoulder. In this case, I simply carried on without any adjustments whatsoever. I rose with delight that I had been perceived as one of the guys. Now, Richard Toy is an interesting film because one of the first films I ever saw, which really showed homosexuality in a positive light. It was fine, okay? It's about a film about a woman pretend to be a man, pretend to be a woman, okay? It's that kind of film. But there's some really, really nice tender moments, not between Victor, or Victoria, but there's the subcast, if you will, the other cast that I particularly liked. And it actually is a really, really good film, especially for a time period. It came at a time where being gay in movies was kind of being a bit more prominent, and you no longer being the butt of the jokes. So, so I was kind of disappointed because Julie Andrews for years has kind of had a very, very strong LGBTQ fan base. And so I thought that she would focus a little bit more on Victor Victoria, and she didn't. Just kind of talk about the LGBTQ fan base that she has. Maybe that's a bit selfish of me, but that's kind of what I was kind of hoping. But that didn't happen, okay? And the thing is, towards the end of the book, it kind of goes into a kind of melancholy as well, because this book is kind of inching towards the loss of a singing voice, okay? This bit here, it's about a film called That's Life, okay? And get this, it's about a woman, and I actually haven't seen That's Life. But it's about a woman who, his wife Juliana is a singer who, unbeknownst to anyone but her doctor, has had a biopsy on her vocal cords and has to cope with her fears alone this birthday weekend while waiting for the results. Before shooting commenced, I went to visit my ears, nose and throat specialist to consult with him as what my character might be dealing with, how the singer would sound after a biopsy, and what kind of operation the future might she be facing if the diagnosis was bad. Being obvious superstitions about playing the character facing the loss of her voice, I asked my analyst if investing emotionally in a role could put me at risk of some psychosomatic manifestation. He assured me that I had nothing to worry about. Yeah, that's foreshadowing, sadly, and it's obviously that's the third book in the series, if you will. Okay, so I liked this book because I liked reading about Julie Andrews' world, her worldview, the struggle of being in Hollywood, making it Hollywood. But at the same time, the melancholy air of this book kind of meant I didn't prefer it to as much to the first book. I'm sorry to do this again, but 20 minutes talking, okay? 20 minutes talking, okay? Humour me. So, and that's the thing about someone like Julie Andrews is she is such an icon and that no one can ever really replace her as well. Now, I want to talk about Mary Poppins Returns quickly because I truly honest, I didn't like it. I had nothing against Emily Blunt. Nothing against Emily Blunt at all. I mean, she knew she was stepping in some seriously, seriously big shoes with that. But I generally didn't like Mary Poppins Returns. I thought her character came across as too vain. Um, it was such a retrend of the original film. Now, I actually counted the songs because I was bored. There are exactly the same number of songs in Mary Poppins as in Mary Poppins Returns. And how come is it? Why does Mary Poppins Returns feel longer? It just made no sense. And every single bit was a retrend. Okay, having a tea party on the ceiling, kind of jumping into something. Okay, oh, and the whole bit, okay, about Michael Banks knowing nothing about banking. Okay, and Jane, I don't know what she even did for a living, by the way. She's kind of like volunteering, taking off her mother's suffragette cues, if you will, and helps the poor and unneeded. I'm like, is that your job, or do you volunteer for that? Okay. And so a guy who is a banker knows nothing about banking, even though that amount of money in the bank should be paying out dividends. He also shares it. Oh, having Colin Firth as the villain. The only bit about that film I liked is Lin Manuel, who played Jack, and Dick Van Dyke's cameo at the end. It did need to be done. So, anyway, that's what I'm saying now. Okay, about Homework. I liked it, but not as much as the original. But I still love Julie Andrews. I'm never going to change that. And I'm signing off here. We're talking now for 25 minutes about Julie Andrews. Oh, wow. Sign off here. Happy New Year, everyone. And bye now.